In this video, I'm going to teach you some basics about networking. So I'm going to start off by spawning a block here. And I'm going to play the game. So how networking works on Roblox is that there's two things called a client and the server. So you can think of the client as the player or your personal computer, and the server as the game itself. So I'll give an example on what that means. So let's say I want to change the color of this part here. I'm just going to do that in workspace. Let's say I'll make it red. So it appears red to me, but if we go to the server view, just right here, you can see it's still white. And this is purely for security reasons. Roblox by default blocks most actions from the player. So let's say we change the color on the server though. So let's change it to blue. So you can see it's blue on the server, and then we go back to the player view. You can see it's blue on the player. So the server, all of the server's actions are replicated to the client without any blockage. And this really applies to anything. So let's say I want to change the size on the player view, like so. We switch server, it won't work. But if we change the size to server, you can see it works. And because the player actions aren't being replicated to the server, that also means the other players can't see what you're doing. And this is important because a lot of the times, let's say you have some type of wall right here, right? And you can't go through the wall, but what a hacker can do is they can turn off the collision for it. So I turn off the collision right here, and then they can just go through it. Or they can make it completely invisible, and they'll go through it like it's nothing, even though for the other players, the wall will still be there and the collision would still work. So that's really the difference between the server and the client. Roblox also lets us write code in either server or client form. So there's two types of scripts. There's a normal script, which I like to call a server script, and then there's also a local script. So this is the client script essentially. So again, we'll give an example. So I'm just going to change the color of the part. Let's just make it blue, and then I'm going to make it red for the client, like so. And then because a local script is a client script, a local script can only run under the player. So we need to parent this local script under the player. I'm just going to parent it to starter player scripts. And I'm going to go ahead and disable this script for now, just so we have one script running. So I'll go ahead and play the game. And you can see that the local script's under my player, so it'll run. And you can see it's red on my screen, but if we were to switch the server, it won't be red on the server or to any other player. And let's enable the normal script and disable the local script. And then run it. And you can see it's blue on the player and also blue on the server. So remember that the server code will always replicate to all the clients, whereas the local scripts or the client code will not replicate at all. It'll only run on your personal computer. So why is this useful? What's the benefits of having a local script? Why not just use all server scripts? So there's actually a lot of things we can do with a local script. So for one, if you want to do any local changes, such as, let's say you want to make a door that only certain players can go through, you can use a local script to do that. Or even let's do something called night vision. So let's say the world's really dark, so I'm making the world dark right now. There we go, so it's kind of dark right now, right? And then let's say we want to make some type of night vision. So I'm just going to change the lighting's brightness to 10, and then just make it green. Just make it green like that. Let's disable this. So now if we were to run it, you can see the world's brighter and it's green for me, but it does not affect the other players. So if we go to the server, you can see it's still dark, but on the player it's still bright. And if we were to try to do this on a server script, so let's get rid of that and put this on the server, enable, and then play it. You can see that the world is green and bright. It's the same thing. However, we go to the server view and it affects everyone. So everyone will have night vision. So if you want to where like only one player has night vision, then you can do this. So there's a lot of things you can do with this restriction of the client code. Some other considerations to use a local script is that there's some things you can only do with a local script that you can't do with a server script. For example, if any type of user input, like clicking the mouse, typing on the keyboard, or any camera related usually, that can only be done on a local script because only the client has access to that and not the server. So sometimes you just have to do stuff on a local script because that's the only way to do it. But let's say you want to do something on a local script, but you want it to replicate to the server. So we need to use something called a remote event. So I'm going to just change the brightness back to normal. So I'm going to create an object called a remote event, and I'm just going to put it in replicate storage. Generally, there's not really anywhere else you would put it. I usually put it in replicate storage. Okay, and then I'm going to enable this script. So remember, by default, local script code does not replicate to the server or any other player, but we can use a remote event to do that. So let's make a script that changes this part's color with a local script. So obviously, if we were to do something like this, it won't work because only the player would be able to see it. But let's say we want it to replicate. What we can do instead is we can fire this remote event. So I'm just going to type in game.replicate storage, so locate the remote event, and then I'm going to use a function called fire server. So like so. And then we'll go to the server script and we need to catch this fire. So I'm going to reference the remote event again. And I'm going to use an event called onServerEvent and connect it to a function. And now we just do a simple print, remote event has been fired. And I'm going to change the part color. Let's do red. Okay. So now if we were to run this, you can see it changes to red, and if we go to the server view, it's also red. So remote events allows the client and the server to communicate with each other. Now let's do a bit of a more practical example, because you might not see the point here since we can just do this on the server and save the hassle. So let's say I want some type of, let's say I was making like a gun or something, right? So a simple definition of a gun, how that works in Roblox is you click on the mouse and a bullet spawns, right? So we'll just do something very simple to showcase my point. So I'm going to insert a tool and put the local script in here. Then I'm just going to make it where, make a variable for the tool, and I'm going to use an activated event connected to a function. And all this is doing is this function fires every time I click my mouse while the tool's equipped. So print tool clicked, and then I'm just going to create a part. I'm just gonna clone this and make it smaller. Oops, that needs to be a 3. And I guess I'll position it too. Okay, looks good. Go delete that for now. And then make sure you disable the requires handle property so the script can actually run. So now you can see I create some parts and you can push them around. Kind of like this is, I mean, I know this is not a gun, but a gun is the same logic where you click it spawns a part. So, and then but the problem is that since this is on a local script, if we were to go to the server, you can see these parts don't actually exist. So we need to use a remote event to create this part on the server. That way you can replicate. So same logic, instead of putting the code in here, I'm just gonna fire a remote event. And you can have as many remote events as you want. And I'm going to reference that remote event. And connect to a function. Then just paste the code in here. So now every time I click on a tool, it fires this remote event. This server script catches that fire and then calls this function connected to the remote event. So go ahead and test that out. And you can see, same thing happens. But if we were to go to a server, these parts actually exist now. And that's the end of the video, as well as the end of the basic scripting series. You should have enough knowledge now to create some basic games or anything you need. But if you ever have any trouble or any questions, feel free to join the Discord, and me or any other developer will be happy to help you. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe. And after this, I'll be releasing another video explaining what the next videos will be in the future, as it will branch off to a bit more advanced tutorials and other content.